Shalom, shalom, Israel. Shalom's brother Zabayala.
Brother Marquas.
Coming back at you with another cold cut through the spirit. W5 history. Last week we touched on World War II. We felt like, we needed to kind of touch on World War II, all the things that's going on, in the world, and the most I having prophecies, the last 3-4 weeks, just back to back, back to back, back to back. We got to understand how war works. But now going back into the history of the Achaemenid Empire, 2 weeks ago, we touched on the Babylonians. Then previously before that was the Assyrians. So we're going to kind of keep rolling through the history, biblical history, understanding where our forefathers are, right, where they were, right, the maps, the kings that ruled during this time. And this is going to help with your biblical studies as well, understanding the Bible, improving the Bible, with this history. And as we always, we get into the precepts, and we bring out how important it is to search out, your fathers, man. Let me get this precept actually. All right, let me get this precept. This is going to help with your understanding of biblical knowledge, right? This is going to help with the understanding thereof. Right, let me go to the book of Job, chapter 8 and 8. The classic. Bring this out almost every week. Right, this Job chapter 8. I even do it in the NLT this time. Job chapter 8 and verse 8. Just as the previous generation, pay attention to the experience of our ancestors. Wow. Pay attention to the experience of our ancestors. So how was the experience of Mordecai? What was the experience of Esther? When somebody experiences something, that's their life. That's what they lived. That's what they did. So the Lord said, pay attention to the experience of our ancestors, where they was at, right? What they were doing, the captivities, right? The culture, the language they were speaking, the activities that was done. So we have to go into this Bible. We have to understand, these different things. That's going to help us build up our understanding in the word of the Lord. Right? Let me actually get another precept. Let me go to the book of Romans 15. Romans chapter 15, verse 4. And it says, such things were written in the scriptures long ago to teach us. And the scriptures give us hope and encouragement as we wait patiently for God's promise to be fulfilled. So the scriptures, things that were written in the scriptures was for it to teach us, man. So when you see different names, Cyrus the Great, we see, different prophecies. When you see different names of different lands that our forefathers lived in, those things were to teach us. It's not for you to just flip to the next page and say, oh, Nineveh. Oh, mead. What is that word mead? What is that, media? Why is there media in the Bible? There's no cameras in the ancient world. And you just flip the next page. And then you just keep reading on. That's evil. You have to search out what media means. Is that talking about the actual camera in modern day technology, or is that a city, right, in the Achaemenid Empire? Right, so you got to go into these things, go into the scriptures. They're meant to teach you. And let me get one more precept in the NLT. Talking about media, is that a camera? What are you talking about? Right, it's 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15. And it says, work so hard you can present yourself to God and receive his approval. Be a good worker, or one who does not need to be ashamed, who correctly explains the word of truth. So for you to correctly explain the word of truth, you have to be able to go into history. At camp yesterday, we had to do that. We had to go into the history. We had to pull up accounts, different cities, different names, different men that live in these different cities. You got to pull up different things, man, to help you correctly explain the word of truth and not be ashamed, not be embarrassed, being confident in doing it. But you got it.
You go to 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22. Actually, start at verse 20. Let me see. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse number. You can start at verse 20. through the Spirit, right? All praise to the Most High. So yeah, like the brother said, let me back in. You want to make sure that you well-rounded in the precepts, but not only with the precepts, but you want to have that history or certain knowledge to back up the precepts. You got to be well-rounded. You got to be all things to all men. Some people, they not just gonna believe in the Bible. All right, some people you got to go into the history, or you got to go into certain maps or etymology of certain words for certain people to understand what's going on. A lot of people, when you came into this truth, you didn't really believe in the Bible, or you want that intact in the Bible. So you had, to watch the servants of the Lord and different, brothers that you watched. They probably went into history to back it up, or they expounded on another level of the precepts, or they put up maps and they made it understandable. And the way you make it understandable is by going and touching on different other outlets that back up the Bible, and that also builds up your faith too. So this 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse number 20, it says, "And unto the Jews I became a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without the law, as without the law, being not without law to God, but under the law of Christ, that I might gain them that are without the law." So Paul, as he's going to these different places, traveling to these different regions, and teaching the Jews and the Israelites in these different places, he's becoming, he's relating with them, for lack of better terms. Paul, one of the chief things that made Paul a mighty teacher is how he knew how to relate to certain groups. Just like how it is today, you got brothers that that's in the hood, they call them the YNs now. You got that term YNs, or you got the YNs. You got Jake, that's he grew up privileged. You got Jake that grew up in the burbs. You relate to Jake in different ways. You got quote unquote geeks, and they get into anime and mathematics. And you got the the sports brothers. You got all type of different groups. So Paul is saying he knew how to relate to the difference of our people in all different ways when it came to breaking down and expounding on the words of the Most High. It says, verse 22, "To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some." So you got to become all things to all men. You got brothers that's historians in this thing. They want other resources and other quote unquote proof. So to become all things to all men, you got to make sure that you well-rounded, with this sword through the Spirit. I want to go to another classic, 2 Timothy 2. All right.
Come on, hey, bring it out again through the Spirit.
Oh, you just brought that out. That was the Spirit, right? But this 2 Timothy 2:15. It says, "Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." That's plain. The brother broke it down, but you got to rightly divide the word of truth. And again, to rightly divide the word of truth, you got to go into all things. I got one more. Let's go to, since you brought that out, let's go to Malachi chapter 2 and verse 12. I believe I brought this out last week too. All right, Malachi chapter 2 and verse number 12. Right, and it reads, "The Lord will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob." Right, so you read the Bible, we got cut off as a people, and one of the chief people that got cut off was the scholars. But guess what? The Most High is building back up the scholars, the service of the Most High in the last days. And in order to be a scholar again, you can't just touch on one aspect of the of the Bible. You got to be again well-rounded. Our fathers, they were scholars. They didn't just rely on the Torah to get them in-depth understanding. All right, they wrote their own books. You got the book of the prophet Gad, the book of the prophet Nathan. All right, these are scholars. All right, these are men of our past that knew the history. Like how we bring out every week as well. You got these other nations. You got Achaemenid the Ammonite and Judith the 5th chapter that recalled all the history. You got Stephen at Acts 7. You got Joshua the 24th chapter. All these different accounts, they just calling out history just off the Spirit. And that's how we want to be the same way. And that's through much studying going through the precepts and building yourself up to be a scholar, not according to this world as they deem as scholars with college and school and degrees, but being a scholar with the spirit of the Most High in you, being able to touch on different aspects of this Bible and history and breaking it down plainly through the spirit. All right, but you got it.
Come. That's exactly right. I mean, a lot of to be a king, you have to know history. You have to know different accounts. You have to know judgments. You have to know the law. To be a king is much more than sitting on a throne, and is giving out commands all day. Hey, even that Russian, what's that Russian king named Putin?
Yeah.
When he was doing an interview with Tucker, he recounted the Russian history all the way back during starting back from 800 AD all the way up to 2024, off the top of his head. The man recounted the Russian history from 800 AD. He even pulled out Russian icons, man, and said Christ was black. Like, this man went fully into the history off the top of the dome in a 2-hour interview. And then, the American kings can't even know. They don't even know their third president. Name the third president. Who is that guy? What's his name? You got it.
Yeah, I remember that too. I was watching that interview. You had what's his name, Carlston Tucker or something like that.
Yeah.
He started getting bored. It was like, well, you just answer the question. He was like, man, you Americans, I'm trying to get to it. He says, is this an interview or is this a damn talk show host or something like that? But yeah, he was damn recalling the damn history. I was damn getting bored because I'm at the plantation. I'm listening to it. And I'm trying to see what else he gonna go into. He just going through the history.
Man went into the religions.
Just saying. I believe to make a long story short, he was saying. I think he asked him, why is he trying to take back Ukraine? I think that's what the question was, and then he just went on a damn whole historical breakdown for like 30 minutes.
Come. And I think he was just proving how Ukraine was always a part of Russia.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying it was more years that Ukraine was a part of Russia than when Ukraine wasn't. The man recounted all that. That's an Edomite. That's a heathen. How much more us, Jake? That's the base man of the earth. That man, he has no spiritual understanding. That man, he just knows, and that's an Edomite king. How much more the Israelite? Yasher Allah, the sons of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. We should know. We should know from Adam to Abraham, right? Our kings, our forefathers, the sons of God. We need to know. We need to know these things, man. The geography, huh?
I said we were just talking about that the other day, going over, kind of recalling, the sons of God, the kings of Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom, knowing them by heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that, I'd be mighty to remember and kind of study and going to. Like you said, that's our history. You ask Esau name all of his damn Greek kings and his Roman generals. You got Jake. Jake know the 10 feathers more than he know about his own kings off the top. He going through all these different devils, breaking it down, but you got to know your own history and going through the kings from David, then Zedekiah, right? From Jeroboam all the way to Hosea,
Mm-hmm. That's right, man. Jake see Nazareth. What's Nazareth? And he flipped the page and said, I'm just gonna keep reading. Where's Jude? What's Judea? Isn't that the same as Jerusalem? They don't know what the hell is going on. Judea and Jerusalem sounds the same to me. They don't know no damn Mount Carmel. Where's that at? You have to know where these places are. You have to live this Bible. You have to live this. Like, you have to be there when you're reading it. Like in these movies where they kind of just put themselves, like, back in the history. When they read the book, they put themselves back, actually when they was there. That's how you got to be in the spirit. You got to actually be there with King David, just seeing these events, imagining these events. But it's going to be hard to imagine what's going on if you can't paint the picture. So let me get a precept real quick. And before we hop into this, right, let's go to Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 29. An NLT. I like the NLT, man. Right, it's Proverbs 22 and 29. Do you see any truly competent workers? They will serve kings rather than working for ordinary people, man. You know, we want to serve Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. We don't want to work for ordinary people, you know. But to serve kings, you have to know king things, man. You have to be on that type of level, man. Damn near. You don't want to be in front of average men. The average man doesn't know this. The average man won't even go into this. The average man is somewhere watching a football game or on his phone somewhere. But if you really want to stand before kings, you're going to be on this live. You're going to be taking notes. And you're going to be looking at, you know, your history, our history in the Achaemenid Empire from 550 to 331 BC. Because we can hop into it. All right. Now, understanding the Achaemenid Empire, when we go into the scriptures, we know, and you may have seen a man named Cyrus the Great, or a King Cyrus, technically the second, right? Cyrus the Great was born in 590 or 580 BC, Media of Persis, right, which is considered Iran today. So the Persians are really Iran. In 1940s, I actually even pull that up. I read like 1930s or the 1940s, all the way up into that time, it was Iran was known as Persian. Now my computer want to go slow. See that? Damn, Satan, man. As soon as we get into it, everything was just working well. All right. When did Iran change from 1935? So they just changed their name from Persia to Iran. And the Lord has Persia working all over again in end times. But besides the point, Iran changed its name from Persia in 1935. So Iran will be considered Persia to this day. Right? Those are the Persians. And they had their own empire. They had their time to rule. So when we read about Cyrus the Great, he was born in Media. Right? He was born in Media. And the Medes and the Persians were a joint empire until, you know, the Persians kind of took down the Medes with Cyrus. Right, but I'm gonna get into this out. It says, was a conqueror who founded the Achaemenid Empire centered on Persia, comprising the Near East from the Aegean Sea eastward to Indus River. He is also remembered in the Cyrus legend, first recorded by Xenophon, Greek soldier and author, in a Cyropedia, as a tolerant and ideal monarch who is called the father of ancient Persians. In the Bible, he is the liberator of the Jews who are captive in Babylonia. So Cyrus was the man that the Most High used for us to rebuild the second temple. Cyrus is the man who the Lord used for us to rebuild the second temple. Right? Let me actually get that. Let me go to the book of Ezra 1:1. He was a tolerant. The reason why it says tolerant, because you was more so living liberally in the Achaemenid Empire. It wasn't as gruesome as the Achaemenid Empire that we went into. It wasn't a lot of bloodshed and dead bodies and torturings that was really going on during the Achaemenid Empire, or, you know, what was going on during the Grecian Empire, where they were, you know, making you consent to be a Greek, or you were just put to death on the spot. You can kind of live, you know, how you wanted to live during that time through the Spirit, and that's how the Most High had it set up, so we can rebuild the second temple. Right? It's Ezra 1:1 in the KJV, and it says, bring this out real quick. In the first year, King Cyrus of Persia. Well, that's right. Cyrus of Persia. And it's now, in the first year, Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia. So the Cyrus was prophesied all the way since the time of Jeremiah, even before they went into slavery under the Babylonians. Right. And it says, might be fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith King Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven have given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and have charged me to build it in my house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Right? This is historical. This is history right here. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is Judah, God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem. So you had heathen kings acknowledge our God. He acknowledged who the Most High was. The Most High is not just this big idea that started with Christianity. He's a real God. He's a real God that's in that created heavens and earth. And you have Nebuchadnezzar, you have Cyrus, you had all these kings, even Alexander the Great. Hey, he acknowledged the Most High, man. When they took down Tyre and Zidon, they said there was chariots that helped them do that. It's documented. So these heathen kings know who the Most High God is. And whosoever remaineth in this place, right, where he sojourneth, let the men of his place help him with silver and with gold and with goods and with beasts, beside the freewill offering in the house of God that is in Jerusalem. So King Cyrus was the king that allowed us to start rebuilding the second temple. I'm gonna get one more precept real quick. With Haggai. Yeah, I swear.
I got one after you.
Khan. It's Haggai 1:1. In the second year of Darius the king, in the 6th month, so Darius is the third king of Persia, right? Remember, you have Cyrus the Great, you had Cambyses II, who ruled for 8 years, and then you had Darius the Mede, right? In the second year of Darius, this is when Daniel lived during these times. These are called contemporaries. Haggai lived during this time. He was the prophet during this time. In the second year of Darius the king, in the 6th month, in the first day of the month, came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet unto Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel laid the foundation with Joshua, the high priest, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua, son of Joseph, the high priest, saying, the Lord, thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, this people saying, the time is not come, the time that the Lord's house shall be built. Right? Then came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet, saying, it is time for you, O you, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste. Now, therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. So the temple was being rebuilt around this time. So when we go down to kings of the Achaemenid Empire, you had us rebuilding the temple, started from Zerubbabel and Joshua, right, down to Ezra, then going down to Nehemiah, and all of our forefathers doing. So when you read about our forefathers building the temple, you want to know where they was at, how they were traveling, right? What they were doing, the different months, the different days of the month. But you got it.
That's right. You can go to Isaiah 45 and verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the classic. A lot of people read this. I'm surprised Christians don't bring this verse out as much, you know.
Right.
But this Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 1, it says, thus saith the Lord, right? Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus. So when we read Isaiah, not only did Jeremiah prophesy about Cyrus the Great, but Isaiah, he prophesied about Cyrus the Great. In the time period of Isaiah, we went into it, what was that, 2 weeks ago, right? He lived during the time around the Syrians was coming into power. You know, it's like Isaiah, he prophesied to Ahaz, right? And then he prophesied to Hezekiah, and that was around the 8th century, you know, BCE, right around before 722, when Northern Kingdom got taken captive, and even after that, he was counseling, you know, again, Ahaz and Hezekiah on beseeching the Most High and different things of that nature. Again, that was, you know, around 8th century, and he already prophesied about Cyrus the Great before he came into power. You know, so, and to put that in perspective, so this is what 2 captivities later, right? You got Assyria, then you got the Babylonians, and then you got the Persians, and that's mighty how the Most High worked. The Most High had Isaiah know his name before he was born, right? He knew his name before he was born. That's mighty, Cyrus, the Lord's anointed. But let me finish on. It says, thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him to leave the gates, and the gates shall not be shut. And when it says Cyrus is his anointed, it's not saying, you know, Cyrus, he's a saint, he's one of the elect, or he can be one in 144,000. No, when it says he's just anointed, he's just anointed to, again, to do a specific job, which was like how the brother said, to allow us to go back and start the rebuilding of the temple. You know, so don't think, all right, man, Cyrus, he did that, man. I'm gonna have him next to me in the kingdom of heaven. And then we're gonna have, you know, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and King Cyrus, all praises. That's off. Cyrus in the kingdom of heaven, he will be a slave, or he will work for the Israelites. He's not gonna be an equal. He's still gonna be getting his back beat in. Nevertheless, the Most High choose him to put out that decree to start the building of the temple, right? Led by Zerubbabel and led by Joshua through the Spirit. I got one more. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 36. Right, 2 Chronicles chapter 36, start at verse 20. Right, 2 Chronicles chapter 36 and verse number 20. It says, and them that had escaped from the sword carried he away to Babylon, talking about Nebuchadnezzar, where they were servants to him and his sons until the reign of the kingdom of Persia. And we read the Chronicles again. That's all history within itself as well. So after you had Babylon, you had the kingdom of Persia. Reading on, it says, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths for as long as she lay desolate. She kept Sabbaths to fulfill 70 years. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and put it also in writings, you know, saying, and kind of going to it. But nevertheless, you read about Cyrus. I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the two chief heathen kings that you read about the most in the Bible, you see their names a lot, it's Nebuchadnezzar and King Cyrus. You know, these men played big roles, namely Cyrus. You know, he played a big role when it came to the Jews, you know, the Israelites. Again, he the one that allowed us to go back and begin the rebuilding of the temple. And from there on, you know, this, you know, history from there. We're gonna go into a little willing with Zerubbabel, Joshua, Ezra, Nehemiah, etc. But nevertheless, they laid the foundation at Haggai that was in the midst of it. You know, you had a lot of prophets that was in the midst of that thing. So I'm gonna grab one more precept. Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter, I believe I'm on 13. Actually, let's go to, let me see. I'm gonna stay in Isaiah 40. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 28. Right, Isaiah chapter 44 and verse number 28. It says, that saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he shall perform all my pleasure. Again, we read these precepts about Cyrus, you want to be beguiled. All right, now he's a shepherd. All right, now he's the one that's being spoken of in Psalms 23. That's the real shepherd, King Cyrus. No, it's just man. Again, he sent us back to do the work of the Lord. It says, even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple, thy foundation shall be laid. And most high willing we go into it, but again, he don't want to get a decree for us to go back and to begin the rebuilding of the temple. Like the brother said, it wasn't a rigorous bondage like how it was from the Babylonians. And Nebuchadnezzar just going around slaying and killing everyone. No, he had the Most High. It's really all the Most High. The Most High put it on his spirit to do that. You know, and which is why he called him his anointed and his shepherd. Because again, he's the one that led that through the spirit of the Most High. But you got it.
Kyle, let me go back into this article real quick. Scroll down a little bit. Let's see if it's this one. No, we just read that. All right, let me scroll down a little bit. All right, and it says, the most important source for his life in the Greek historian Herodotus, the idealized biography by Xenophon, is a work for the edification of the Greeks concerning the ideal ruler, rather than historical treaties. Let me actually scroll down, because when he took over the empire, when he took over the Lydian Empire, not the Lydian, I'm sorry, the Median Empire, he actually took down his grandfather. And it says the story of the childhood of Cyrus, as told by Herodotus with the echoes of Xenophon, may be called a Cyrus legend, since it obviously follows a pattern of folk beliefs about the most superhuman qualities of the founder of the dynasty. You already know it. The heathens always have to add some type of fallacy or some type of damn fairy tale, and they just can't keep it real. They have to add some type of superhuman quality of Cyrus. It's not real, right? But similar beliefs also exist about the founder of later dynasties throughout the history of Iran. According to legend, Astyages, the king of the Medes, right? Because remember, when you go to Daniel, right? Let me see Daniel chapter 8. Let's go to Daniel chapter 8. And it says, then I lifted mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns. So this ram that had two horns is symbolizing the Persian and Median Empire. And the two horns were very high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. So what is that horn that came up last? That the Persians actually took down the Medes, right? The Persians took down the Medes. And that, because remember, there was two horns, but the one that came up higher than the last. And I saw the ram pushing westward and northward. Actually, we're going to touch on that, right? We're going to touch on the expansion of the Achaemenid Empire. But right now, that horn that came up higher was Cyrus taking down Astyages, the ruler of the Medes, to make that horn come up higher. And it's actually crazy when you go into the story, the history. And it says, according to the legend, Astyages, the king of the Medes and the overlord of the Persians, gave his daughter in marriage to his vassal in Persis, a prince called Cambyses, right? Cambyses the first. Right, from this marriage, Cyrus was born. So Cyrus is the grandson of Astyages, right? And it says Astyages, having a dream that the baby, who is Cyrus, will grow up to overthrow him, ordered Cyrus slain. So he wanted to kill Cyrus. His chief advisor, however, instead gave the baby to a shepherd to raise. When he was 10 years old, Cyrus, because of his outstanding qualities, was discovered by Astyages, who, in spite of the dream, who persuaded to allow the boy to live. Cyrus, when he reached manhood in Persis, revolted against his maternal grandfather and overlord. Astyages marched against rebel, but his armies deserted him and surrendered to Cyrus in 550 BC. So Cyrus overthrew his grandfather to get the damn kingdom, man. These heathens overthrow their own family members, man. And he had a dream. The Most High gave him a dream about that first. And guess what? The Lord fulfilled that and overthrew his grandfather to make it what? To make that horn higher than the other, and the higher came up last. So that's how that played out. That's how that played out.
That too.
Kyle, you got it.
It's the same book. That's the 7th chapter. Daniel chapter 7 and verse number 5. Right. And we read Daniel the 7th and the 8th chapter. It's kind of the same spirit, just being described with different beasts, you know. But this Daniel chapter 7 and verse number 5. And behold, another beast, a second like unto a bear. Right? This bear, the same way how it was a ram in the 8th chapter, and the 7th chapter, the Persian Empire is like unto as a bear, as this beast. It says, and it raised itself up on one side. Right? And of course, like how the brother broke down, why is the bear raising itself up on one side? Is because, again, the Medo-Persian Empire, they're one empire, but one of the nationalities, so-called, or races, began to be higher within the other. Right? The Persians began to be stronger than the Medes, and they end up taking over the Medes. It says, raise itself up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth. It's in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. And I believe the brother gonna break it down, you know, the 3 ribs, etc., what that's going into. I don't want to jump the gun, but yeah, that's all I had on that.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of like those chapters are like the same spirit, you know, kind of going into the prophecies of the kingdoms. You know, but this particular kingdom, this man overthrew his grandfather for the kingdom, and he surrendered to him in 550 BC. Now let's look at the map of the Persian Empire, right? The map of the Persian Empire. Pull this up real quick. Actually, here it is. Khan. It's the map of the Persian Empire. Kind of zoom in. All right. And and when you can see it stretches to massive. And the brother gonna get into the Greek and Persian wars. I'm pretty sure, but the Greek and Persian wars, you know, that's all over here. Because remember, they're trying to stretch in Macedonia. There are 127 provinces, man. 127 provinces that these people were under, man. You know, let me actually get that in the book of Esther real quick after this, because you got all the way from the Scythians, right, from the Asia Minor, bordering India, right, all the way to Babylonia, right, going over Arabia, the Levant, right, the Levant, down to Egypt, and all the way up to Libya. You have from Libya, Cyrene, right, all the way to what? To the Scythians or to India. Right. So this is a very, very, very big empire, a vast empire, as they say. Let me get this in the book real quick of Esther. This is Esther 1:1. And it says, now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, reigned from India even unto Ethiopia. So you can see that India all the way to Ethiopia, so all the way down here, right? So basically from Africa to India, that's a far stretch. That's the whole known world, you know. Then they tried to go into Greece, as we keep saying, you know, but the Most High had to shut that down because, you know, the Most High points his borders that he can't pass. But from India to even to Ethiopia, over 127 provinces. So you had 127 provinces, man. Right? And you're gonna read, and we're gonna read about our forefathers. You know, Mordecai, Esther, that lived there. Esther was the queen of all these provinces. Imagine a so-called black woman, a Benjamite queen over all these provinces, man. And Mordecai, he caught the shots through the spirit, man.
Yeah.
It was the Persian Empire, but you know, really during Xerxes the first, it was really Israel. Israel was calling the shots, you know, but it was the so-called Persian Empire.
All right.
You know, but this is what it looked like, and this is how vast it was. You got it.
You brought out. Yeah, I was gonna bring that out. Esther 101. Yeah, that's plain. You know, the you can actually go back to the map real quick. And when you look at this map, you know, a lot of these names should be familiar to you. Because a lot of these names, these provinces, is written of, you know, in the Bible, you got Persis, of course, the Persia, right? You got Slakia. You got Ecbatana that you read about in the book of Tobit. Right, you got Babylon, of course, Egypt, you got Assyria. You got Carmania that you also read about in Second Esdras. So when you also read the Bible, you want to know these different land masses, and you know you don't want to read it again just one lands. You read about all these different, you know, regions. You don't know where they at. You don't know what's going on. When you read, you want to be able to have that image in your head. Okay, I know what that said. I know what that said. All right, this is right here. Okay, I know what that said. I don't even got to look at it. So you want to get familiar with the names on this map, and not, you know, just on this map only, but when you just doing your research, you doing the history, you know, make the Bible more understandable, and not just the Bible, but history in general. All right, you got Sicilia, you got Cyprus, Lydia. All right, you read about this in the so-called New Testament. All right, you got Lydia, Sardis. Read that in Revelation, the 7th chapter. I mean, not the 7th chapter, the 2nd and 3rd chapter with the 7 churches. So, you want to make sure you're getting accustomed to these maps and these names and, where these locations are. Because all these locations that you read about, that's where our forefathers scattered to. All right, you got, again, Israelites in Egypt. All right, you got Israelites in Libya. You got Israelites, of course, as we know, and so-called Asia Minor, which is where Lydia and Sardis was. All right, what's that? Pergamos, Pergaya, Armenia. And again, what makes it special when you know about these areas is not just to know them to be smart. You want to know these things because your forefathers were scattered there. Our forefathers were scattered here. And I got a quick precept. The Lord, let me get this in. I believe it's Saint Esther. All right, let's go to the book of Esther chapter. Let me find this real quick. All right, I believe it's chapter 3. All right, Esther chapter 3 and verse number 8. Again, and that's the Medo-Persian Empire, namely the Persian or Achaemenid Empire. So this the book of Esther chapter 3 and verse 8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all thy provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. You go back to the picture real quick. Hey, so when Haman came to Ahasuerus, right, he said it's a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among all thy provinces. Again, you read about the Bible, you read about all these names. Right? Tobit was in Ecbatana. And that was during the time of Assyria, so-called. Or during the time of their reign of them coming into power and being in power. Again, you got Revelation, so-called New Testament. You got the Jews that was in Greece, right? The Jews and the Greeks, talking about Asia Minor. All right, you got Assyria, right? How we went over, a couple weeks ago. Then you got Samaria, you got Jerusalem and Judah, right? The chief cities where the Jews dwelt and the Israelites dwelt. You got Egypt where we dwelt. We went over that as well. Jeremiah, Exodus. Jeremiah 44, how the Jews scattered into Egypt. You got Babylon. We went over that. So Haman is saying it's a certain race that's scattered throughout all thy provinces. All right, the Elamites, they weren't scattered throughout all the provinces. You didn't have Elamites in Egypt like you had the Israelites. All right, you didn't have them. What's another nation? You didn't have the Medes, in the land of Greeks like that.
Didn't.
Scattered, you had the Israelites, God's chosen people. And Haman, he's letting Ahasuerus know. He said, hey, you got this one race. They just everywhere. They laws are diverse. They doing too much. They doing their own thing. So he was getting emotional. He seen Mordecai, it was kind of Mordecai bowed down to him. He got emotional and just wanted to destroy the whole race of the Israelites. But that's all I wanted to bring out.
Yeah, I mean, you had we were an omnipresent group. You can catch us in India. You literally can catch us in Greece.
Right.
You caught us over there in Rome. Hey, it said our brothers over there in Rome. Greetings. During the Grecian Empire. Right, let's pull that. Let's get that. You had brothers over there in Rome, man. During the Grecian, this is literally right after the Achaemenid Empire. So they probably was there during the Achaemenid Empire, man. All the way in Rome. And this map doesn't even extend out to Rome. You had our brothers everywhere. And that's why he said that, man. These people, what the heck? What's to these people, man? Why are they everywhere? This is First Maccabees chapter 8. Let me pull this precept in a minute. Let me see. Where you had the Romans. Let me see if I can find this. You had basically our people kind of make a pact with the Romans, but you had Israelites and let me see, I think it was Lacedaemonians. I think that's it. I'm trying to see if I can pull this up real quick. Maybe second Maccabees chapter 8. If I can't find it, that's cool. But I just want to kind of pull this just real quick, just to show that we had our brothers out there in Rome. Kim, if you know the precept, you kind of throw it out.
I think you want verse 27 at First Maccabees 8.
Verse 27.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe that's what you want. First Maccabees 8 and verse 27.
No, that's not what I want. It goes into the last of the demonians. They understand that we were they're the children of Abraham. And they wrote a letter to here it is. Found it. It's 12 and 21.
Okay, God.
First Maccabees 12 and 21. See, I'm on the damn computer. Hey, you gotta use your sword, man. Use your sword. All right, so this First Maccabees chapter 12 and verse number 20. And it says, Arius, king of the Lacedaemonians. So the Lacedaemonians were Israelites. To Onias, the high priest, greeting. It is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and Jews are brethren, and that they are the stock of Abraham. Right?
That's a cut.
That's a cut. You had Romans, that was the stock of Abraham, which were the Israelites. Right? And it says, we do right back unto you. Actually, verse 20. Now, therefore, since this has come to our knowledge, you shall do well to write unto us of your prosperity. We do right back again unto you that your cattle and good are ours and yours. We do command, therefore, our ambassadors to make report unto you on the wise. Now, when Jonathan heard that Demetrius' princes were come to fight against him with a greater host in the forward, he removed from Jerusalem and met them in the land of Mathis, for he gave them respite to enter into his country. But the point is, the Lacedaemonians and the Jews are brethren from the stock of Abraham, right? So when you go back to this map, the Romans, they're all the way even further west.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, our people were everywhere. So that's why, you know, he kind of wrote that through the Spirit. You know, I don't know if he had a point.
You got it.
I'm kind of going to I think I want to jump right here. Let me see this right here. I think this is what I want. Let me see. We'll go back. All right. It kind of goes into how Cyrus, not even Cyrus, but the people that were in rulership in Persia. Let me see. They spoke multiple languages. I want to kind of get that point because it's going to kind of touch into Esther and Mordecai. You had to kind of speak multiple languages in this thing to kind of get in there. Hold on, let me see if I can find that. If not, that would be cool, but you kind of had to get in there with the languages. You couldn't just know one language because when you're dealing with trade or you're dealing with, you know, business, especially on a high level like that, you had to know multiple languages. You know, you had to know, like even in the so-called white man system now, you had to know you have to know English. You know, you have to know some type of form of English to kind of do business in this world. Back then, it was actually Aramaic. I'm trying to see if I can pull that up. You had to know Aramaic. Let's see if I can pull that up.
I got a quick preset while you're looking for it. You don't got to go to it, but you can if you want. But this it's the book of Daniel. Right, let me get there real quick. It's the book of Daniel, that's chapter 1 and verse number. Right, touching on that point, Daniel 2. It's the book of Daniel, chapter 2, and verse number 3. It says, and the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. And he spake the Chaldean. It's like, then spake the Chaldeans to the king, in Syriac, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will shew the interpretation. right? And like the brother going into, you had three or yeah, about 2 to 3, chief languages that they spoke back then. All right, they spoke the Syriac, and they also spoke the Aramaic. That was the chief language around the time of that, around that time period. All right, you didn't like the brother say they didn't just speak, one language. Throughout that whole massive empire, it would be impossible for everyone to speak just one language, right? Because you have different races, different nationalities, just like how it is in America. All right, we teach downtown Chicago, you hear these different heathens walking up and down, Michigan Avenue. You hear all different type of languages, and so many languages you don't even know what language it is. You got Spanish, you got people from Haiti, you got the Creole they speaking, our brothers in the Levites. You got what else? You got Esau and these different European countries speaking their own language. You got Elamites, you got Ishmaelites, you got the small hats. Everyone's speaking their own language. So that's just that same spirit. When you have a massive empire and it stretches out throughout the majority of the world or a decent part of the world, and you know different regions, they're gonna have different languages. All right, the Jews, they didn't just speak the Hebrew all day. The way it was scattered into these provinces, they were forced to associate with those people, and by that they have to learn their languages. To make a quick point on that.
Slocky, my computer is very, very slow right now. All hell breaking loose over here. Not gonna lie. With the connection, trying to pull it up real quick so I can look it up. If not, that's cool. I'm gonna move on. But my computer's kind of going pretty slow. Let me see if I can pull this up. If it's not here, it's not here. It is what it is. That's Satan taking away the damn connection, man. But Khan, that's all I had on these two articles. We can pull up one of your articles. You on mute.
I was waiting on you to pull it up. I don't know. The screen is just showing a map.
Yeah, it's showing the map right now.
Yeah, you can pull it up. I mean, you can pull it up from your end. I can't really pull it up from my end.
Which one do you want me to pull up?
The first one that I sent you.
I don't know which one that is. I just kind of clicked on them. Which one is that?
Let me go to it real quick. That's the weaponsandwarfare.com one. What is good right there too? That's good right there too. The map to get the timeline or the timeline joint that you just pulled up. I want to start with that one first, the timeline, so we can get the timelines and kind of go from there.
Right here.
Not a timeline joint that you just had up the picture of the book.
Okay, Con.
Yeah.
All right, Con. Yeah, man, it's going slow, man. Satan's trying to take away the connection, but it's okay. The words of the Lord still gonna go out, man. Con.
Right. So I don't know if this is okay. Con, I see it. Right. So you got, I don't know if it's just blurry on my end, but nevertheless, you got the book Rose, right? Rose books of Bible charts and maps and timelines through the Spirit. This is a good book to grab. Going on to the history of the Bible and different empires and timelines and etc. So when you also read the Bible, you want to know about these certain empires and these different timelines. Now, as you see, it says, I don't know if he can show his mouse, but you see where it says Cyrus, right? Cyrus allows the Jews to return to their land. Exiles began to return to Jerusalem, and they kind of get a date, 538 BC. Like how the brother went into the Persians came into rulership around 550. Now the Persian Empire got established around 539, if I'm not mistaken. So right when Cyrus got in power, he made that decree, like how we went into earlier, for the Jews to begin the rebuilding of the temple. All right, you got the next date, the rebuilding of the temple. It's kind of blurry on my end, but that should say around 536, around 536, 537 BC through the Spirit. right? And then you got the next one, right? The temple completed. And as you see, you got Esther, like how we went into the book of Esther. All right, you got Ezra, you got Joel, you got Nehemiah, you got Zerubbabel and Joshua, of course, too, that laid their hands to the foundation of it. You know, so you want to make sure that you know the orders and the timelines of these different things too. So we can go into the article, the first one, through the Spirit.
Which one is that?
Don't we just have put up
Persian?
the war? Yeah, kind of. Right. Is that the top of it?
Yeah.
Okay, kind. It says the Persian Empire from 559. Now, I'm not gonna read too much on this because the brother already kind of broke it down. So I'm gonna just get to the point. I'm gonna start at Achaemenid dynasty, 559 BC. It says by the 6th century, the Medes had built a large empire that included the Persians to the east and to the east and the Assyrians to the west. However, in 550 BC, Cyrus the Great of Persia conquered the Medes, right? That's what we went over through the Spirit. It says, right, conquered the Medes, occurring Assyria and process, which the Median king Xerxes had taken about 612 BC. We went over that about 2-3 weeks ago, at the Battle of Nineveh. It says the formidable armies of Cyrus battled their way to move victories. Notable the conquest of Lydia, ruled by the king of Chrysos, right? And we're gonna go into that too, Lord willing. When we went into earlier with the bear, how it raised itself up on one side with the 3 ribs, and Daniel, right, chapter 7, how the brother broke it down in Daniel 8 and 3. You had the ram with the horn higher than the other, and you had the 3 ribs in the bear's mouth. One of those ribs was the Lydians. Now, again, not jumping the gun. Nevertheless, it says the victory gave Cyrus possession of the Greek seaboard cities of Asia Minor and 539 BC Babylon, capital of the Chaldean Empire, surrounded to Cyrus without a fight and conquering Babylon. Cyrus also acquired Palestine, which is Israel. He also allowed the Israelites to return from Babylonian exile to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. Turning eastward, Cyrus expanded his empire to the border of India, like how the book brought out chapter 1 and verse number 1. It says he was killed fighting against eastern nomads in 529 and was buried in a tomb he had prepared at his capital, Pasargade, right? Pasargade. And then the rest of it goes into the different kings and the life of Cyrus and his son Cambyses, and an acts that Cambyses did. Now, was you trying to jump into Daniel chapter 7 and break it down? I don't know if you had this already built up. Pulled up.
Salaki. Let me see.
But just kind of going into it though.
In Daniel 7.
Yeah, Khan. I was gonna say that for you to touch on. I know you had some articles on it.
Because in Daniel chapter 7, let me start at verse number 5. All right. In Daniel chapter 7 and verse number 5, and it says, and behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised itself up on one side and had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, arise and devour much flesh. Why did this bear, who represents the Persians and the Medes, have 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it? The reason why is because when this bear was on the earth, ruling this earth, it had to take down 3 major empires for it to have this type of power, right? Let's go back to the map. Let's see. You gotta go back to the map. When you go into it, those 3 ribs that's in the bear's mouth, it tried to devour damn near a 4th one with the Greeks, but the Lord wasn't having it. It's the Lydian Empire, right? The Lydian Empire would have been somewhere up here, right? The Lydians took down the Lydian Empire, took down the Babylonian Empire, and then last of all, it took down the Egyptians. That's why you have Egypt and Libya, because after Egypt, I mean, went straight over to Libya. Oh, it's like the Lydians over here.
Kanye,
Like,
Lydia.
yeah. You got the Lydians, the Babylonians, and the Egyptians. Cambyses II took down the Egyptians, but you had Cyrus the Great take down the Lydians and the Babylonians, and they expand his empire all the way to India. And we can show you that real quick. Let me go right here to the battle, the conquest of Lydia. The conquest of Lydia. So when you go into the conquest of Lydia, let me jump down. It's also known as the Battle of Thymbra, right? The Battle of Thymbra. But let's jump down right here. All right. And it says, actually, I'm going to start up here. The site, once the capital of the Lydian Empire, because they're going to go into how they actually have facts that they excavated or they digged up, proving that war actually happened. All right. And it says the site, once the capital of the Lydian Empire, played a pivotal role in the history of Western Anatolia. Sardis was the birthplace of gold and silver coinage and was known for its wealth and influence in the ancient world. However, it also became a battleground during the Persian expansion on Cyrus the Great, marking the end of the Lydian Empire. So the Lydians were known for having gold and wealth, and very and much goods through the spirit, right? And it says, I'm jumping down, kind of getting into the conflict. These findings provide tangible evidence of the Persian conquest of Sardis, a turning point in the region's history. The Battle of Thymbra, which took place in 546, some scholars say 547, but generally around 547, 546 BC, saw the forces of Cyrus the Great clashes with those of the Lydian king Croesus. And despite Croesus' wealth and military strength, the Lydians were defeated, leading to the fall of Sardis and the incorporation of Lydia into the rapid expanding Achaemenid Empire. And when you go into the Battle of Thymbra, it was said that that King Cyrus used the element of surprise, because there's a certain time when kings will go out to war. That's around the spring, summertime when kings will usually war. And then going into the wintertime, you had kings put up their soldiers, right? Pay them throughout the winter time so they can be ready to go again in the summertime. And let's prove that. There's a certain time period where kings will send their soldiers out to battle. All right. What is 2 Samuel chapter 12, 11 and 1. It's 2 Samuel 11 and 1. And it came to pass after the year was expired, right? At the time when kings go forth to battle. So when the year is expired, that's right before when? Right before the springtime, or right before, you would say, around the time of Passover. So the 12th month will be around the time of, what we will call February, March, right? That will be around the time of the 12th month. And then the new month will be around March to April. Right. And it says, it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. So you had the kings go forth out to battles during the springtime leading into the summer. But what happened with Cyrus, when they took down the battle, when they took down the Lydians, let's see where that article was at. When they took down the Lydians, when you go into it, they came during the winter time when all of King Croesus' soldiers were at home on leave, and he was understaffed, that they were saying, and he kind of took them down, and that's kind of how he did that. So that's one of the ribs in the bear's mouth. Go back to that in Daniel 7. I don't know if you had a point to add on that too, King, but
nah, it's I'm gonna wait till I'm gonna go back to the other article and it kind of expound on it a little bit more too.
Right. So in Daniel 7, that's one of the ribs was the Lydians taken down in 546 or 547 BC. Right. 546 or 547 BC. The next rib will be the Babylonians during the Battle of Apis. What is this madness? The Battle of Apis. And this is in Isaiah. You can read about the battle of Apis in Isaiah chapter 13. We brought this out at the end of the Babylonian Empire on the live about the battle of Apis, right? The last military engagement with the Babylonian soldiers and the Persian soldiers, right? I'm gonna get into this a little bit, kind of get into the second rib. And it says Cyrus's army, possibly learning from the Lydians, Cyrus created what some military historians consider the first true cavalry, fielding units of mounted warriors not as supplements to chariots but as their own force. It would not be long before chariots disappeared from the battlefield altogether, except in Britain, where they lasted another 750 years. Cyrus encouraged military innovation during this invasion of Babylonia. His engineers, right, managed to divert the course of the entire Euphrates. He created a system of roads that served both armies and merchants well. His personal bodyguard, said to number 10,000 men, which were called the Immortals. And you have a movie about that, about the Immortals, right? That's actually going into King Cyrus the Great's army.
I got a point on that.
Come.
I believe it's in the movie 300 as well.
Oh yeah,
Immortals. I was gonna touch on that in the movie 300. You know, you see about the so-called Persians. They had these men called the Immortals. You know, and every time you were killed, I don't believe I was gonna say it, but every time you kill one, another one kind of come up. And that in the movie, it give out a good description on how battle tested, so-called, that these Immortals were. Now they kind of made them like, you know, damn, I don't know the word. They kind of made them like, you know,
feminine.
Yeah, feminine, and they kind of more than what they was, like, you know, kind of overdid it. You know, they was just men at the end of the day, but in the movie they kind of made it to some mighty, you know, some damn goblin warrior or something. Nevertheless, you know, you see that in the movie 300. I wish we could, you know, show a clip or something, but
yeah,
you kind of see that in the movie 300 though. But you got it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the movie 300 shows the Immortals because as soon as one died, another would take his place, man. Creating the impression of invincibility both within and outside the unit. Imagine somebody died and another one has come up. Like they were just taking death. They were barely fighting. They just knew they would die because it was so many of them. You know, it was just so many of them. One would die and he would just get cast to the side, and there's just another one that would step up, just willingly offering his body.
Yes,
you know, it's weird, but that was their game plan. That's how they won, right? The Battle of Apis in 539 BC between the armies of Persia under Cyrus the Great and the Neo-Babylonian Empire under Nabonidus. Nabonidus was the last king. If you watch that breakdown, the last king of the Babylonian Empire was Nabonidus. During the Persian invasion of Mesopotamia, the battle was fought near the strategic riverside of Apis, right north of the capital of Babylon. It resulted in decisive defeat for the Babylonians. Cyrus the Great was subsequently proclaimed king of Babylonia and his subject territories, thus incorporating the Babylonian Empire into the greater Persian Empire. Right, the Battle of Apis was right here, right? Well, right here. And then they kind of sojourned south into Babylon, took the cities thereof. So let's go back to that map, right over here. The Battle of Apis is right over here. So they went from here, traveled all the way across, went from here, and then after that, took over the Levant, and then took over Egypt. So that was the Battle of Apis. All right. That's the Battle of Apis where the Persians took down the Babylonians. This is the second rib. This is the second rib where Babylonia fell easily into Cyrus's hands because Nabonidus was universally disliked by his subjects, in particular the Jews, our people, who've been forced into exile by Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar. Cyrus was, they're going to say Cyrus was our deliverer. The Most High was our deliverer.
That's off.
It's off. The Most High was our deliverer. Right? But that was the second rib. The third rib by Cyrus's son, Cambyses II. This is the third rib that was in the bear's mouth. All right, let's go back to that Daniel. This is the third rib. The first was the Lydian Empire, the Battle of Thyma. The second is the 546. The second is Babylon, the Battle of Apis. 539. The third is 525 BC, the Battle of Pelusium, aka the Battle of Cats. Why is it called the Battle of Cats? Because the Egyptians worship cats and they didn't fight. Right? This is the Battle of Pelusium. The ancient Egyptians had a great reverence for life in all its forms. Life had been given by the gods, and reverence for it extended beyond human beings to all living things. That's why they got the Sphinx. The Sphinx is just a big cat over there in Egypt because they worship cats. Although the Egyptians did occasionally eat meat, and their royalty certainly engaged in the hunt, the Egyptian diet was primarily vegetarian or pescatarian. And this reflected the understanding of the sacred nature of his existence. Even that when animals were eaten, thanks were given for the sacrifice, pets were well cared for, and the wildlife and nature was respected. Right? Now let's get into the battle. The value is visible everywhere throughout their culture, from art to Egyptian religion, but it epitomized by the Battle of Pelusium 525. This engagement was the decisive clash between the pharaoh Sementic III and the Persian king of Cambyses II, 525 to 522, resulting in the first Persian conquest of Egypt. Right? So Cambyses took this down. Let's see how. The battle, well, let me see. The victory, however, was due far more to Cambyses II's knowledge of Egyptian culture than his record as a field commander. So guess what? In war, you have to know other people's culture. How did he win? He knew the Egyptian culture. He knew their history. So if you're a warrior, you can't just, you got to count the cost, as the Lord said in Luke 14. You can't just get in there, man. He knew their Egyptian culture, and the battle was won through a very unusual strategy on Cambyses II part, the use of animals as hostages, and especially cats. So what he did was, when you go into it, right before they fought, they unleashed a whole bunch of cats. And guess what? The Egyptians bowed down to the cats, and then they just took death. Let me see if you can kind of see if we can watch this real quick. You can't hear it, can you?
No.
So what they did was they unleashed. Huh?
It says mute the video.
Can't hear it.
Let me see.
You hear it?
It sounds staticky. I don't really hear it speaking though.
I don't know if on the comment board y'all can let me know if y'all can hear this. If y'all can hear that. Can y'all hear that?
No.
If y'all can hear that, what this Edomite woman is saying. No sound. Thank you, Joshua Flores. Well, the point is, this, look, if you see this picture right here, right, I'm going to have to kind of fix that after the live, but this picture is where Cambyses II army unleashed a whole bunch of cats to the the Egyptians, man. And guess what? They didn't fight, and it is took death. Right? Cats were so highly regarded in ancient Egypt that the punishment for killings one was death. If you killed a cat, like Jake could kick a cat out the way in New York. Get the hell out of my way. He is kick a cat. You was gonna die in ancient Egypt. You know? So Battle of Pelusium was aka also called the Battle of Cats because they used cats as hostages, and the Egyptians refused to fight because they looked at cats as their god.
Yeah, that's off.
That's off. Why couldn't these cats save you? Hey, it would have been more. Hey, what if they unleashed tigers on them? What if the tigers was unleashed on them? They use small cats, but what if jaguars was unleashed on them and they bowed down to the jaguar? They would have got eaten to death. So these gods got them. Their gods got them destroyed. But nonetheless, that was the third rib. right? The Lydian, 546, Babylon, 539, Battle of Opis, Battle of Thyber, Battle of Opis, and then you had the Battle of Pelusium, aka the Battle of Cats, Cambyses II, 525 BC. Those are the three ribs in the bear's mouth. But you can go back. We can go back to the article.
You can zoom in a little bit. Right. So yeah, that's plain. It says, I'm gonna read right under Achaemenid dynasty, the third paragraph. It says, under Darius, the Persian, right, because the brother broke down against Cyrus' son Cambyses II, the different battles with Egypt and Sardis, etc. Not Sardis, but Lydia, etc. So low one that was plain. So you got under Darius, the Persian Empire flourished. The most notable accomplishment was perfecting a system of government begun by Cyrus. It says the empire was divided into 20 satrapies, right? 20 satrapies or province, right? Province under rule over by satrap. It says officials known as the king's eyes made regular visits to the satrapies and reported their observations to the king. That's why Haman, through the spirit, he knew everyone and what the Israelites was doing under each empire, because he had certain men that had eyes for the kings, for lack of better terms, right? To watch over certain provinces. That's why he brought the report out that we read in Esther chapter 3 and verse 8. It says certain people scattered abroad, because Haman, he wouldn't be able to travel throughout this whole empire himself, right? So he had men that came to him and give him updates on the empire. It says the satrapies furnished soldiers in the king's armies. Phoenician, Egypt, and the Greek colonies of Asia Minor also supplied ships and sailors. In addition, each satrap paid a fixed yearly tribute to Darius. Right? You can scroll down, and that's another map of again the Achaemenid Empire. It says a numerous wealth flowed in the royal treasure houses of Susa. Now you read about Susa. I actually read about Susa in the Bible. Let's get there real quick in the book of Esther. So within this, you have Esther. She was a queen under the Persian Empire. I believe under Xerxes the First, right? Also known as Ahasuerus, King Ahasuerus. All right, let's go to the book of. All right, let's go to the book of Esther, chapter 1. All right, Esther chapter 1 and verse number. All right, where is this at? Verse 5. It's the book of Esther chapter 1 and verse number 5. It says, and when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan the palace. So we read about that word Susa, Susa. It's interchangeable. It's the same thing. And that's where you had the chief palace was. The chief palace was in that specific province. It says, both unto great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace. So that's where the chief city or the chief of providence, not for Israelites only, but that's when the chief providence of wealth for the king was, like how you read in that article. All right, was Susa the palace. All right, and that's where Esther, Mordecai, a lot of the Israelites, right, and a lot of other so-called races dwelt there through the spirit. But we go back to the article just to prove that you had Israelites in that area, and that's one of the chief places that you read about in the Bible as well. It says Persepolis, right, Pasargade, and Ecbatana. When a king required money, he minted gold coins and encouraged consumer Darius standardized coins, weights, and measures, built emperor highways, and completed a canal of Nile River to the Red Sea. It says he demanded strict enforcement of the severe laws of the Medes and Persians. Throughout his reign, Darius was forced to suppress the revolts of the empire. In 500 BC, the Greek cities of Asia Minor rebelled. After putting down a rebellion, Darius turned to the Athens, right, to punish it for sending aid to the rebels. And this is the start of the Greco-Persian Wars that we're gonna go into, Lord willing. It says beaten in famous battle Marathon, right? That's one of the chief battles that you read about within the Greco-Persian Wars. It's the Battle of Marathon. It says he prepared another expedition, but died in 486 BC before it started. I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read this last one right here. Then we can go into the Greco-Persian Wars. It says, so when you read about these kingdoms, man, it's a lot of wars and battles that's being fought. Right? It's a lot of bloodshed. That's why the kingdom of heaven is going to be, extremely different. Not only because, it's going to last forever and the Israelites going to be ruling, but also because you don't see no wars. All right, these kingdoms, they went through hundreds of wars and battles and deaths and casualties. And the kingdom of heaven, everyone's going to be into subjection under the Israelites. It's not going to be no great grand rise and rebellion of the Greeks, right? Or no great rise of rebellion of the Ethiopians. That's not going to happen.
You got another book, another Bible for the Moabites, and then now they're going to be the next rulers on earth.
Yeah, that's off. The kingdom of heaven is going to rule forever, and everyone going to be put in their place, man. Nevertheless, it says Xerxes, right? Xerxes, the son of Darius, ruled from 846 to 465, right? And I believe that's the same Xerxes that was married to Esther.
Mm-hmm.
Going back into Khan. Right, so that's the same Xerxes. So when you read about this Xerxes right here, the son of Darius, hey, that was Esther's husband, right? That was Esther's husband. So you got Xerxes, the son of Darius, wrote from 486, and that's after he kind of got rid of what's her name, Vashti.
Yeah, Vashti.
Right? Yeah, Vashti. Kind of put her to the side and picked up Esther after that year of trying. And also, this is the same Xerxes that you see in the movie 300. He then walked inside that nasty cave with those bald head freaky men, went into that nasty water, came out with all that gold on. They tried to personify him as a god, right? Came out there 10 feet tall, all this gold on, and I got these tidy whiteys. They got to pull up that image. Right, Xerxes the first. So if you haven't seen the movie 300, you kind of got to watch that movie 300. Look at that.
This is Esther's. They said this is Esther's husband.
It's off. Look, he just being a freak in that water.
So look at him.
Image with him in the damn pond.
He's in the pond.
Yeah, right there. Score that. Yeah, right there. Let's look at that. That's off. Just off. And you get the the picture with him and Leonidas. Again, going into the Greco-Persian Wars that lead up. That's that build up, So after the Persians, they took down those three major kingdoms, took down Babylon, all right, they took down Egypt, they took down Lydia through the spirit. And after that, they're kind of still going on to the Greeks now. Like how we just read, the Greeks, they rebelled. And because the Greeks rebelled, he said Darius, his father, he kind of shut that rebellion down. But after he shut the rebellion down, you go to the map real quick so we can get the layout. So you had the Asia, it said from Asia Minor. Now, Asia Minor is modern day Turkey, which is that coast, that area of Lydia, Pergamos, Sardis, that area. Caesarea, that's what you call Asia Minor. So you have the Greeks, right? In Asia Minor, they rebelled. They tried to fight back. Darius, he put that to shame. But they was getting reinforced by the Athenians. And the Athenians, you see where it says Greece, you see Athens. They were supplying and aiding, right, so-called Asia Minor. So after he put that rebellion down with Lydia and Asia Minor, he said, you know what, since the Athens want to help, I'm going to go and take down the Athens and those Greek city-states. And that's when he goes and tries to take down those Greek city states. That kicks off right the Greco-Persian Wars. So we can go back to the last article, the first one, not the first one, but the one we was just at. Right, that kicks off the Greco-Persian Wars. We're gonna touch on the Greco-Persian Wars. All right, where is it? It says, I'm gonna start where it says Xerxes again. Right, it says Xerxes, the son of Darius, ruled from 486 to 465. He was a tyrannical king who began his reign, right, quelling rebellions in Egypt and Babylon. Right, so you have to calm down the rebellions, like how we touched on Greece, Egypt, Babylon. It says then gathered a huge force to overwhelm Greece. Right, and that's what we're about to touch on. He tried to take over all the Greeks. It says it seemed as if that the mighty empire would conquer the small, destitute Greek city-states. Right, before Greece was a empire under Alexander, you had the Greek city-states. Again, you had Athens and you had, Sparta, had Macedon, etc., the little Greek city-states, which is why in Daniel, you see how they was divided, the Greeks. Reading on, it says, yet Xerxes met disaster at Salamis and Palladium, and his great army was driven back into Asia. See Persian Wars. So we can touch on that real quick, the article. Right, I want to touch on that article real quick, the Greco-Persian Wars. So again, it's a lot of wars and battles that Persia kind of undertook, man. It was kind of getting in there. Is this it?
Yeah.
I believe it was. I thought it was a different. I believe it's a different one with the Greco-Persian Wars. Let me see.
I brought that one out. By Pelusium. Opus.
Yeah, it should be. Let me see. It should say Britannica Greco-Persian Wars.
Kind of say this what
image. Okay, yeah. It says the Greco-Persian Wars, series of wars fought by the Greek states and Persia. Again, because Greece, it wasn't officially an empire. It's they had city states, and each city state had its own little government and governor. And we can touch on that next week, Lord willing. But Greece, it was real divided. It was one people, but it was extremely divided. It says over a period of almost half a century, the fighting was most intense during the two invasions that Persia launched against mainland Greece between 490 and 479 BC. Although the Persian Empire was at the peak of its strength, the collective defense mounted by the Greeks overcame seemingly impossible odds, even succeeded the liberating Greek city-states on the fringe of Persia itself. Right? It says the Greek triumph ensued the survival of Greek culture and political structure along with the demise of the Persian Empire. All right, and again, when you see that movie 300, I believe they have two parts, right? They got a part one and a so-called part two.
Yeah.
Now, I want to touch on the battle of, right? I want to touch on one of the battles. Let's go to, I don't think I sent you the article, but you can type in the battle of Marathon. Right, the battle of Marathon through the spirit. And one of the two chief,
Google.
Yeah, you can just type it in real quick, see what they say. But you had two chief battles. You had the Battle of Marathon, and you had the Battle of I don't know how you pronounce it, right? Right, it's Thermopylae, I believe. Nevertheless, these two big battles was fought with the Athens and fought with the Sparta. And again, that's where you get the movie 300 from. So if you haven't seen that, you gotta kind of watch that. because it's the background of it. You can press that link.
Which one?
You can type the first one.
This?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, kind of. It says, right, what happened to the Battle of Marathon? It says, what was the Battle of Marathon? The Battle of Marathon was fought between a Persian army and a mostly Athenian Greek army of 490 BC. The first Greco-Persian War, right? The outnumbered Athenians famously defeated the Persian armies on the beach of Marathon, some 40 kilometers, right? 25 miles from Athens. I believe that's what part two going into. You know, they got two parts of the movies. I believe part two kind of going into the Battle of Marathon, and the first part kind of going into the Battle of Thermopylae through the Spirit. Or you could type in Thermopylae and see what that pop up with. So I don't want to spend too long on the Greek city states and the multiple battles that they overtook and had, but see that. Nevertheless, it's some quick background information. So it says, did the Battle of Thermopylae, of course it happened, right? Did it really happen? The Battle of Thermopylae was a battle in 480 BC, right, in the central Greece at the mountain pass of Thermopylae. It was fought between Greek and Persian forces during the Persian Wars, and that's where they get the movie 300 from, as you see in the images on the right hand side. Now, in history, in real life, it wasn't really 300 people. It was really more than 300 that held off a whole Persian army. Nevertheless, they had to make the movie interesting. They really get that from Gideon, that 300 spirit. They get that from the Bible, choosing 300 chief men to go out to battle. Nevertheless, that's a background on these famous movies and the background linking up with the Bible and with the precepts with Darius going back and trying to overthrow the Greeks for the different rebellions that they kept, raging. So you can go back to that article. Finish that out. It says the expansion, right? Establishing expansion of the Achaemenid Empire. We kind of touched on. I'm gonna read that real quick. It says in 559, right, BC, the Persian king Cyrus the Second founded the Achaemenid Empire. We went over that through the Spirit. I'm gonna read the next sentence. It says, actually, I'm gonna read on. It says, founded the Achaemenid dynasty, and would have spent the rest of his life extending his rule, which ultimately reached from Edis River Valley to the Aegean Sea, right? The Aegean Sea, that's where originally a lot of the Japhites were, but then the Greeks, Esau kind of overtook that landmass. It says, after the Persian defeated Creos in Lydia, like how the brother went over, 546 BC, the small Greek states of Asian coast were reduced piecemeal, and Sparta, the strongest state of the Greek mainland, did nothing more than lodge diplomatic protests. So you have Sparta within there again, where you get that movie from, and the other city states. And when you go into the city states, they had beef with each other a lot. All right, they had the Spartans. They looked at the Athens as boy lovers, which the Greeks are. It was a lot of internal battles within the Greek city states as well, which is why it made it even more a big spectacle on how they was able to overtake Persia. Because while they had their own civil wars and their own battles, they still managed to come together and take over, Persia. It says Darius II, who reigned from 522 to 486, consolidated and extended the Persian Empire from its capital far inland at Susa. The royal roads led about 20 provinces called satrapies, which were governed by satraps possessing full military and civil powers. That's kind of what we touched on in the other article as well. So it's kind of reiterating the same things, but that's another witness on it though. Right, but that's all. That's pretty much on this article. I wanted to just touch on the Greek city states and the wars that kind of took place in it. Dealing with that Thermopylae and that marathon through the spirit.
I got we can pull up one precept real quick
Okay.
in Daniel 11. It's kind of going to Xerxes too, and these kings. Right, go to Daniel chapter 11 and verse 1 real quick, right? And it says, in first year of Darius, the king of the Mede, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood up to confirm and strengthen him, right? And then we just read about that same Darius that reigned from 522 after Cambyses. And now I will show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet three kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be richer than they all. And his strength by his riches shall stir up all. He shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. And we're reading that. That was Xerxes. Xerxes stirred up all the realm of Grecia. That's the fourth king, right? That's going to be richer than they all, right? That was Esther's husband, Xerxes the first, because during that time, that was the height of the Achaemenid Empire was under Xerxes the first, right? We read about in the book of Esther. We get Mordecai. He stood in the presence of the king, right? They stirred up the realm of Grecia. They woke that leopard that you read about in Daniel 7. They woke him up, man. Because they try to go past their bounds. They try to extend their empire, but the Most High didn't want them past Grecia. It wasn't time for them yet. And then you had those wars from Xerxes to Artaxerxes to Darius the third, and all the way down into the decline of the kingdom, where Alexander the Great is now on the scene. But the three kings, as we read, was Cyrus, Cambyses the second, Darius the Mede, and then it was Xerxes the first that stirred up the realm of Grecia. Right? He was that king that stirred up the realm of Grecia because they tried to go past their bounds, man. And that's why you can't say this Bible's not real, because this is all prophecy. We're going into the Bible and linking it up through the spirit, man. We're linking it up through the spirit. Let me see. Let me go. Let me hear. There's a scoffer. Are you talking about the Arabian Harman Senior?
Yeah.
It's the scoffer. We got to put you in timeout.
But yeah, that's right. Daniel chapter 11. That's plain. Right, he stir up the Greeks. Next thing you know, 331 happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Guagamela. We're gonna touch on that too. We're gonna if we ain't got no other article, we can put out a Battle of Guagamela.
Yes, I think that's the last one.
Khan, so you got the battle. I don't know if it's my screen, but it looked like it's something in the middle. Okay, Khan. It says the Battle of Guagamela. It says the forces of Alexander the Great of Macedon and Darius III of Persia that decided the fate of the Persian Achaemenid Empire. So those, and when we go into this battle, leading up to it, you got this show on Netflix. I believe it's called Alexander the Great. It's fairly new, if I'm not mistaken. It do a good job with showing that tension that Alexander had with Darius III. And as Alexander was going forth and conquering, Darius' empire at the time, this is a different Darius, by the way, Darius III, right? This is going into the tension that they had with each other, right? How Darius' men looked at Darius as he's seeing this young, how they look at him, how they like to glorify Esau, how they look at this young conqueror conquering these lands so fast. And they said Alexander, he kind of had a chip on his shoulder because of the history that the Persians already had with the Greeks, or how the Persians tried to destroy him. So Alexander, he kind of took this battle personally, and all these different wars with him overtaking these different cities and Egypt yielding unto him and him going over and conquering and winning these battles. They kind of go into the history and they show a lot of good, they make a lot of good points in it. Nevertheless, you can scroll down. So Persia actually ended up falling to the Greeks. All right, Persia eventually ended up fell to the Greeks through all the Greeks, the Greek city-states and the wars, right, that was led up against it. Persia, they end up falling to them. So from his accession in 336 BC at age 20, Alexander had set his mind to the conquest of Persia. Indeed, he had grown up the idea. Moreover, he needed the wealth of Persia if it was to maintain an army built by his father, Philip II. Right? You read about that in First Maccabees 1:1. about Philip and his father, the Macedonian. It says, and pay off the debts that he owed, the exploits of the 10,000 Greek soldiers of Fortune and of right how you say that?
I guess Agiselos of Sparta.
Yeah, Agesilaus of Sparta, and successfully campaigning the Persian territory and revealed the vulnerability of the Achaemenid Empire. Right? It says with good cavalry force, Alexander could expect to defeat any Persian army, and the Macedonian heroity companion cavalry were arguably the finest extorian, right?
Equestrian.
Unit of the ancient equestrian of the ancient world, right? But that's pretty much had on that. It just goes into the different, really the wars and the battle of Gaugamela, how they end up falling. I don't know if it's gonna get to the battle, but
Let me see.
can I read it from right there? Oh, yeah, we can start from right here just to get right to the point. Gaugamela. Right, it says the plan of Gaugamela northward of Nineveh, right across Tigris, what is now Mosul, aka Iraq, was chosen by Darius for a battle with Alexander advancing forces because of the subtlety of four Darius cavalry, which outnumber Alexander's. Right, it says the total troop strengthened given by ancient authorities vary, some being quite fantastic, but in any case, the Persians outnumbered the Macedonians. And in front, the Persian line were the Scythian war chariots. So that the Scythians kind of out front with the war chariots. It says 50 on the right and center, kind of going into the battle formation on how this thing kind of played out. Nevertheless, at the Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander ended up overthrowing the Persian Empire and Darius III, and that shows that shift. You can go to First Maccabees 1:1, and that shows that shift in the power structure from one kingdom to another through the Spirit.
Okay.
So this First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse number 1. It says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, has smitten Darius, king of Persia and Medes, and he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. And from that point on, Alexander officially became the first king, right, over Greece. Right, they went from being Greek city-states to him binding up all in one, right? And again, he overthrew the so-called, he overthrew the Persians, Darius III, But that's all I had on that.
And I highlighted, and evils were multiplied in the earth, when after that happened. And that goes back to Daniel 11:3. And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion, do according to his will. That was Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great stood up and did according to his will for only about 12 years. Read that First Maccabees 1:1, right, where he's laid sick. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and he shall be divided to the four winds of heaven. Who was his kingdom divided to? Right. And we're going to get a little bit more. We kind of jumping the gun. We're going to get a little bit more into the Greeks, Lord willing, next week. But you had Lysimachus, you had Cassander, you had Ptolemy, and you really had Antigonus. But Seleucus, he came over and took over Antigonus and created the Seleucian dynasty. That war with Ptolemy, that's where you get the 6 Syrian wars from. But you had Lysimachus, Cassander, Ptolemy. And the original 4 was Antigonus, but remember, Antigonus was taken down by Seleucus. So that's the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, because remember, the kingdom didn't go to Alexander the Great's son. When Alexander the Great died, his son was still in Pampers, right? His son was still in Pampers. So he needed a regent king, which was going to be Antigonus, but they killed him. Right. And it says, or according to his dominion, which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others beside those. And they were warring after his kingdom, which we'll touch a little bit more next week. Right. But let me get one more article real quick. These were the kings of Persia. If you kind of want to look at it, just to kind of have an idea, right? When it says Darius was smitten, it's not talking about Darius the first. It's talking about Darius the third. That's the final king of Persia. And then the kingdom was on a vast decline when the Greeks were coming into power during Artaxerxes the first, Shapur the second, and Artaxerxes the first, right? But Cyrus the Great, right? Cambyses the second, Darius the first, Xerxes the first. This is Esther's husband, right? The movie 300, which kicked off and stirred up all the realm of Grecia. And then really the final king was the Darius the third, reigning from 336 to 330, and he's the one that got put to flight by Alexander the Great and his men, right? And his instability, it weakened the empire. And that's when kind of Alexander the Great went on his great maneuver to take over the known world after Artaxerxes the first, Shapur the second, and Ardashir the third, Ardashir the first. But these guys really don't matter. These three guys right here, they don't matter. I'm not gonna say they don't matter, but they don't matter. Darius the third, he was the final king, as they say. These guys are nobodies. They got, they laid down to Alexander the Great. All right. But these are mainly the kings that you really want to know under the Achaemenid Empire: Cyrus the Great, Cambyses II, Darius the first, Xerxes the first, Darius the third, which was taken down. Right? You want to know these kings, right? The Assyrian king. We went over these lives. You want to go back, touch on these lives. And while we're going through the scriptures, now you're going through the history, it's going to help. The Assyrian king, starting with Tiglath-Pileser II, right? Salmanassar the fifth, Sennacherib, Amenessar, which is Sargon the second. You want to get into these kings, Nabopolassar, Nebuchadnezzar II, right? And on these Assyrian kings, and then we're going to get into the Greeks next week, Lord willing.
It's like, and I was going to say too, and it's a lot more history on Persia. Well, pertaining to our people. We touched on it. We didn't really get to go deep into it, but you still got, Zerubbabel and the different men that went back to build the temple in the different time periods, and the certain kings that was reigning that allowed them to go back, at those specific time periods. So, those breakdowns is on the channel actually. Those breakdowns is different Daniel breakdowns, so if you want to find that, you got to, kind of search the channel. Nevertheless, that's some good history too, touching on Persia, with our people and what we did during that time. We want to make sure in each empire, what was my people at, what was we doing? Because again, we're the only nation that's scattered amongst every single province and kingdom. That's Deuteronomy 28 and verse 25. Most High scattered us into every nation. James 1:1, all the classics of us being scattered abroad. So you want to make sure that you know what your people was doing in that era, right? That's a quick point I wanted to make on there. Again, you got Nehemiah, Ezra, what they was doing, going back and rebuilding in Jerusalem. All right, and it's a lot of history, But again, those breakdowns is on the channel.
Con, and I didn't even get into I didn't even get into Mordecai. We didn't even get into Esther and Mordecai like that. Yeah. What was Mordecai doing? Let's see who they don't even know who this mighty Benjamite was from the tribe of Benjamin, the mighty Benjamite from the tribe of Benjamin. They don't even know who this guy was, man. This is Mordecai. It's Esther 8:15. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king. Quiz. What king was this? Xerxes the first. You got it right. And royal apparel of blue and white, and with the great crown of gold. Why did our forefather have a great crown of gold at the height of the Achaemenid Empire under Xerxes the first? Right? And with the garment of fine linen and purple, the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad, because our people was in a position of power during this time. Wasn't during the Babylonian Empire, Daniel was the top president out of 3 presidents all over Babylon? That was during the time of Nebuchadnezzar.
Right.
And Belshazzar the fifth. So that was this is our forefathers were in prominent positions. We didn't even touch on Nehemiah. Let me go to the book of Nehemiah 8:9. A lot of people don't even know what Nehemiah the Tershatha was. They don't even know what that means. This is Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 9. When you go into the word Tershatha, and Nehemiah, which is the Tershatha, and Ezra the priest, the scribe, and Levites, I taught the people, said unto the people, this day is holy unto the Lord your God, and mourn not, nor weep, for all the people wept when they heard the words of the law. Remember, he was the king's cupbearer. But when he went back over to rebuild the temple, he got the name Tershata. When you go into the word Tershata, let me go back. When you go into the word Tershata, it means a title used by the Persian governor in Judea. So Nehemiah was a governor in Judea, man. He was a governor. Nehemiah, the governor. Ezra, the priest. Mordecai stood in the presence of the king. Esther, the queen, the king's wife. Zerubbabel, the governor before Nehemiah. Joshua, the high priest. Daniel, the top president in Babylon. Stop playing with our forefathers. Know the positions our forefathers was in. He was a governor or a deputy. These aren't low title. He had responsibilities he had to do on top of what? On top of taking care of his nation. Don't you think he had to do the king's business? Don't you think he had to do things as the governor? He had paperwork and he had to meet with certain diplomats, and then he had to turn around and do the work of the Lord. So you can relate to our forefathers. You may not be in a high position like that, but you got to work. Don't you got to do things, don't you got to do things, for your job, and then turn around and you got to help out the nation. You got to go and teach the nation, and then you got to go, go back to work on Monday, and you got to go file these things for your boss, and you got to work 8-hour shifts, and you got to come home to your family, and then you still got to do some calls and videos and talk to brothers and sisters, make sure they're good. That's what Nehemiah was doing. Our forefathers, they weren't just homeless men trying to build the temple. They all had jobs. They all had positions they had to do. Nehemiah was a governor. Hey, Esau system, the governor is the highest man in the state. You got it.
Kanye, I was gonna say you even had Daniel too. Daniel was a president, and Daniel, he was alive during the time of Cyrus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get that quick precept in Daniel chapter 10.
That's right.
Right. So you had, like the brother saying, you had people everywhere within these empires, man. Right. Daniel chapter 10 and verse number 1. It says, in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belshazzar, and the thing was true, but the time appointed was long, and he understood the thing and had understanding of the vision. And you read, and then you can go to Daniel chapter 11 and verse 1 as well. Right, it's Daniel chapter 11 and verse 1. It says, also in the 1st year of Darius the Mede. So you have again, the Medo-Persian Empire, you had the Medes, and you had the Persians. Daniel, he lived during that time. Daniel wasn't poor either. You read Daniel, the 1st chapter, Daniel was a president. He was the real first black president. Right. Not Obama, not Kamala Harris, and they're saying Michelle Obama may run next year and all this madness. No, that's off. Daniel, he was the first black president. All right. Daniel, what's that? Daniel 6 verse 2. It says, with these 3 presidents, of whom Daniel was first, right, that the princes might give account unto them, the king shall have no damage. That's plain. It says this, right, then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes. So Daniel, he was preferred above all the presidents and the princes. Again, he's an Israelite. This is a heathen kingdom. And Daniel is up there. Like the brother brought, Mordecai, he wore a great crown of gold, and he was rocking that. Esther was the queen. Nehemiah was the governor. Ezra, he came before the king, and he actually went back and built under Xerxes. So we was in the presence of these men. Reading on, it says, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. That's crazy. Over the whole realm. This is real black history. They need to start bringing this out of school. All right, Jake, you still learning about damn Rosa Parks, how she sat in the front of the bus, and Martin Luther King, and how his great "I Have a Dream" speech. Brother, your forefathers had crowns on. You never seen that. I've never seen years in school. I've never seen one time in Black History Month where they showed just one of our people with a crown on his head. You kind of got to do your own research and dig just to find something. You got all this information here, though. But, Colossians 1 and 26, now the information is made known to saints in the last days through the Spirit.
Yeah.
But that.
Yeah, I mean, that's why this Bible is so beautiful. You were introduced to this knowledge. Now you know history from every time period leading up to America. And we're going to continue to get some more history leading up to America. You already know what our forefathers doing in America. It's only been beaten into you and propagated into you since you was in kindergarten. But how about the Romans? What about the Greeks? Achaemenid Empire, Babylon, Assyria, Egypt. Right? We're going to get into more history, and it's now going to unravel a lot of history about our people, man, about us being in these high positions, us having crowns on our head. Like the brother said, they don't teach you this in school. They're never going to do it. So you have to search out the matter yourself. And the Lord gave you a place to start, gave you the scriptures, man. You start here, and then the Lord's going to start showing you things, and then you're going to start getting on Google and looking it up. You're going to get on the Cold Cuts page, look up W5 history, and then you're going to start taking notes. And now when you're reading, it's going to make so much more sense to you. Now you can picture where they at. Now you can see the distance between, Shusha and Ecbatane and see how, that's far. Then what does it mean when they cross the Euphrates? Because they had to cross the Euphrates and the Tigris River to get all the way back west to Israel. That journey that Ezra, when we read Ezra, the 4th and 5th chapter, that journey wasn't easy. He was all the way over there, by the capital where the king was, Ecbatane. And then he had to travel all the way to Jerusalem, man. The Babylonian Empire, where they led you over the river, the Euphrates River. These things happen. And you have to know the geography. You got to know the kings who did it, what time. So that's why this is important. But with that, I'd like to say all praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah. Right? His brother Zabayalo.
And brother Marquaz.
I'd like to bid a mighty strong shalom. Lord willing, you was edified. Shalom.
Shalom.
That was almost